Thank you, Grace. I really appreciate you and everyone. I can't imagine 2 hours have passed. Thank you for sticking with us. I know it's a lot to invest 2 hours or 3 hours of your time on a Saturday. So thank you for sticking with us. And I feel a little like I have a cheat code. The fact that I know all these women personally, like I feel like it's a cheat code. There's no way I have access personally to all these amazing people and can have one-on-one conversations with them about each of these topics. I am glad that they're able and they were able and willing to participate in this and share this knowledge with you all comprehensively. Because once again, these are conversations we would have over brunch or over a mimosa or something. But now we can talk about it, and I can share that with multiple people across different functions. Having said that, I let them know last night when we were talking that my session would have to be minimized, and I don't mind minimizing my session because I ultimately feel like this experience is not about me. There's a reason why I felt inspired to bring these kind of people together for us to have these type of topics. One thing that I wanted to reference as part of this conversation was something that triggered my thought to even get to this point. And I'm going to try to share. Let's see where we are. What can I'm going to share. Okay. Sorry, I'm getting to the technical part as well. So I'm going to figure this out in a second. There we go. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. If you have the details of that. So there was a book I was reading. It's called Personal Development for Smart People. And there was a questionnaire in there, really what got me thinking about this concept. And it had you rate the areas of your life, which is similar to the State of the Union, right? You have every year, once the year starts, you have the president of the country gives a State of the Union, and they go through different aspects of the country and what's happening and what they anticipate to come in the year. Over the past few years, I found myself doing this, what I consider my personal State of the Union. At the end of the year, you go over it, the different areas of your life, and you grade it. But this book was interesting because it would have you grade this, give it a 1 to 10. As you see, you have your habits, daily routines, which involve your exercise, your spiritual development. It has your emotions, your social life, your health and fitness, your money and finances, and all of that. But he would say something at the end of this. He would say, if you don't have a 9 or a 10, you have to change it to a 1. So as you're starting, you go, okay, well, this is a 5, this is a 6, this is a 3, this is a whatever it is that you decide it is. In the book, he says, no, if it's not a 9 or a 10, it has to be a 1. Why? Because anything else in the middle, you're making excuses. You're having to justify it. Once I started thinking of my life in this way, I found myself more intentional about the little things that we spend time on, right? Like you find yourself, oh, I'm on the phone, I'm just going to hang out here because there's something to do. No, you begin to question, okay, in terms of work, career, social relationships, is this a 9 or a 10? Okay, we're doing mental development or education. What are you doing in your life? And is it a 9 or a 10? Because ultimately the input is going to affect the rewards that you reap at the end of the year. This is also why I wanted to have this conversation in January. With a few friends that I've spoken to about this, I kept feeling pushed to put this event together, but I knew I couldn't do it. If I didn't do it in January, it wasn't going to happen. That's really the mindset I had with it. So I said, even if it meant the very last weekend of the month, we would make sure that this happened in January because this ties in on a larger basis to have this conversation for each of us individually. As I mentioned, these women are people who are impactful in their personal experience, in their personal professions and personal experiences, but they have all come together to share that impact. I think it's also a perfect timing when we talk about changes and preparing for changes. I know, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that 2025 is going to be a very interesting year. Not just because of the state of the environment and the economy and having the president that we have and the changes that are already being spit out day by day. If anyone is aware, as we are, you know that's going to not only affect you personally, it is most likely going to affect you professionally. It is also possibly going to affect you financially. And this is just on an internal, personal standpoint. by default, when certain things happen personally and professionally, it does begin to affect your mental health and your mindset, and it begins to affect your physical being because sometimes you're just really quite exhausted to do anything. I am hoping that this event and this conversation that we've had is able to challenge you to be intentional now before the year continues, to be intentional about preserving that energy, planning for those changes, whatever money moves you need to make, whatever conversations you need to start having. If there are professional changes that you need to make, knowing that some things may be different in the next 6 months, then you start thinking about that. We had, Coach Chichi talking about how to be strategic in your business. We've had Dr. Donna talk about how to really be conscious of your mindset, because if we wait until the change happens for us to start working on it, it's a little harder to get the wheels churning. It helps if you have the wheels churning prior to, before we have to put all the work in. Having said that, the next slide. Can you guys still see my screen? Yeah?
Yes, we can. Can you click that the expander thing at the top of the screen? Like there you go.
Okay, well, it doesn't. Okay, there we go.
There.
So here I just put this together to kind of let us think comprehensively about the impact of changes and how it really affects all of us on a grander scale, only to show this as a reason for us to really, really take the time to be intentional about how we manage ourselves and our plans this year and really moving forward. From a mental standpoint, if you're going through a change in your mental health, it affects everything else, but it's really just about you, right? It might affect the people that are closer in your life and your close interactions. But most times I've noticed that people are able to shield their mental state while being functional in society. We can have functional alcoholics, we can have functional depressives, you can have functional people they could be going through chaos in their personal life, but you never see it. Same with physical. Someone can mask a physical issue. Physical health could be down and on the decline, and you wouldn't see it. The person dresses well, does really nice makeup, gets a haircut, shaves their beard. You don't get to see that. But once we begin to talk about changes in the family structure, or professional changes, or community level changes, or socioeconomic level changes, or global community changes, you begin to see how it impacts everybody else. I am hoping that from this conversation and the interactions and access we have, that we are all able to start thinking, okay, we can have anticipated changes that we're aware of, but what happens when the unanticipated comes in? Unanticipated changes means we can't predict what's going to happen. And sure, life happens, things happen, so you don't ever think about it. I can share, I have a friend this morning who was going to be here and they couldn't make it because someone, a close family of theirs, was running 2 nights ago and fell and had to have brain surgery yesterday. Now, that's a family change that has now happened that's going to affect the family's finances because he earns income. It's going to affect the children. It's going to affect probably the physical well-being of everyone because now there's high stress and things to accommodate. It is essential that we all take the responsibility about our mental, physical, the things that we can actually control, that we take responsibility of those ahead of time before something happens. That also means that we are more guarded, as as we had Adeola talk about taxes. Once again, I feel very fortunate. She's been my tax counterpart for the past 3 years. It helps to have the right people in your community. It helps to have the right people in your network. And as Coach Chichi mentioned, your network will determine your net worth. That's valid. But we need to be intentional about those relationships, about those engagements. How are we putting ourselves out there, and who are we spending time with, and what are we talking about? Like, really, what are you spending your time engaging? I'm not saying it shouldn't all be fun, but you also have to think of life on a larger scale, because once again, I think this is going to be the beginning of a time that's very different from anything that we've ever been accustomed to. In the past week, you can tell that it's going to be an interesting experience. So what do we do to preserve our well-being during this process and beyond? Because even if the world changes in 4 years, it will not be the same. We all know that. But how are we going to preserve ourselves and keep our well-being, mental well-being together? How are we going to make sure that we're taking the steps that are necessary? We had, Dr. Christiana talk about just stress and management of stress and recognizing how stress affects us. I'll put a little anecdote. I have known her for several years, and part of why I feel very fortunate with the people that I know here is there was a time that my sleep was completely dysregulated. No matter what I would do, I wouldn't sleep well. I thought, okay, business must be stressful. There's just a lot of stuff going on. And I met with her. We did a blood test and went through certain things. And she gave me a full panel. My hormones, magnesium was low, zinc was here, this was there. I thought, oh, great. I didn't know these things were valid things to think about. I thought it was just stress related, but no, this is actually functional medicine. And what do we do to preserve our well-being? Oh yeah, it was funny because then she told me about testosterone and muscle mass. I'm like, well, I've always been little. I don't know where, I mean, how am I supposed to keep working out every day to keep muscle mass? She goes, well, you need to do some of these things because it's actually affecting your sleep. I didn't think me being skinny would affect my sleep, but seriously, as we get older, lots of things change, and you never know where these little things will begin to affect you and your well-being. Because lack of sleep would affect my interaction at the office, which would affect my interaction with the clients, and by default, affect my money. Then I now have to talk to the tax person about my money. So this conversation, I hope, inspires you to look at every aspect of your life and understand that everything ties to each other. Every single thing. Even if you don't notice it until there is a problem, this is my challenge and really my request to you as people that are part of my community by extension to be very intentional about what you do from here onwards. I hope this platform with Elevate Your Estate is able to be really the beginning of something that adds value on a larger scale. I hope to have more of these sort of conversations and maybe have opportunity for us to meet in person, as I mentioned. But so far, it has been incredible to just hear from each and every one of these women and knowing, I personally know how impactful they are on a one-on-one basis, but knowing that they're able to impact on a larger scale as well. So having said that, there's a link on the website that gives you the opportunity to sign up for a newsletter, which I will manage. I don't like newsletters, so I will not be sending you anything weekly or monthly. It will probably be quarterly, and the quarterly will be more to invite you to similar conversations, similar engagements. It's not, no one is selling you anything. These are all things that would benefit you, but I think it's valuable that we all have a community that challenges us to take it a step further. We're at 123. I will close it out. And if we have some questions, I think Grace will let us know if there's a need for a panel or a need for further discussion. If there isn't, it has been a blessing to have you guys follow through this experience with me. I will say I wasn't sure what to expect, but I am very grateful that we did it. And hopefully we'll do it again, hopefully. But until next time, I hand off to Grace. Thank you guys so much.